Your heart races, your mind spirals, you freeze or you explode. What if that panic response is destroying your best opportunities? Most people think calmness is weakness. They're losing everything because of it. Why do some people thrive in crisis while others collapse? This book reveals the hidden system behind unshakable calm. You're about to learn what Navy SEALs, surgeons, and hostage negotiators know. The question isn't whether chaos will come, it's whether you'll be ready. Welcome to Stillness is Strength, the art of staying calm when life isn't. I'm going to be honest with you from the start. This isn't going to be another mindfulness book that tells you to breathe deeply and think positive thoughts. This is a tactical manual for your nervous system. By the time you finish this audiobook, you'll have a completely different relationship with pressure, chaos, and overwhelm. You'll understand why you react the way you do. And more importantly, you'll have the exact protocols to change it. Let me take you inside a moment that happens every single day, somewhere in the world. A conference room, 7th floor, downtown Manhattan. 12 people around a table. The quarterly numbers just came in, and they're bad. Not just disappointing, catastrophic. The CEO stands at the head of the table, projector showing red arrows pointing down. You can feel the tension like humidity before a storm. The chief financial officer starts speaking, her voice getting higher and faster with each sentence. She's listing problems, her hands moving frantically, papers rustling. The marketing director interrupts her, defensive, his face reddening. Now 2 people are talking over each other. A third person pushes back from the table, arms crossed. The room temperature seems to rise 10 degrees. And in the middle of all this chaos, there's one person who hasn't moved, the vice president of operations. She's sitting still, breathing normally, her expression neutral but attentive. When there's finally a break in the arguing, she speaks. Her voice is quiet enough that people have to stop to hear her. She asks one simple question. What if we're looking at this wrong? That question, delivered in that moment, with that energy, changes everything. The room exhales. People lean back in. The conversation shifts from blame to problem solving. 6 weeks later, the company has not only recovered, but found a new revenue stream they'd never considered. What happened in that room? The difference wasn't intelligence. It wasn't experience. It was nervous system regulation. One person who could stay calm while everyone else was hijacked by their stress response. That's the power we're going to unlock in you. Your brain is not your friend under pressure. I need you to understand this deeply. The same evolutionary machinery that kept your ancestors alive on the savannah is now sabotaging your career, your relationships, and your peace of mind. Your amygdala, that almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in your brain, is constantly scanning for threats. It's fast, it's powerful, and it's absolutely terrible at distinguishing between a lion attack and an aggressive email from your boss. When it perceives danger, it hijacks your entire system. Blood flow redirects from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, to your limbs. Your heart rate spikes, your pupils dilate, stress hormones flood your bloodstream. This is the amygdala override, and it's happening to you multiple times every day without your conscious awareness. There are 3 types of stress responders, and you're definitely one of them. The freezers lock up. Their minds go blank. They can't think, can't speak, can't act. They become paralyzed by the weight of the moment. The fighters attack. They become aggressive, defensive, combative. Their stress comes out as anger, blame, or control. And the flighters flee. They avoid, procrastinate, distract themselves, or literally leave the situation. Each response made perfect sense 10,000 years ago. But in modern life, they're destroying you. Here's what most people don't understand. When someone tells you to just stay calm, they're asking you to override millions of years of evolutionary programming with willpower alone. That's like telling someone who's drowning to just swim better. It doesn't work because it can't work. Calmness isn't a decision you make with your conscious mind. It's a state you create with your entire nervous system. And that requires understanding the biochemistry of what's actually happening inside you. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones are designed for short-term survival. They give you energy, focus, and physical power for about 20 minutes, long enough to fight or flee from immediate danger. But here's the problem. Modern stressors don't resolve in 20 minutes. They're chronic. Your difficult boss isn't going anywhere. Your financial pressure doesn't disappear. Your relationship conflict doesn't resolve itself. So your body keeps producing stress hormones, and those hormones start destroying you from the inside. Your decision-making deteriorates. Your immune system weakens. Your sleep quality plummets. Your emotional regulation crumbles. This is decision decay, and it's why you make your worst choices when you're most stressed. Think back to the last 5 times you completely lost your composure. Maybe you snapped at someone you love. Maybe you sent an email you regretted. Maybe you made a choice that, in hindsight, makes absolutely no sense. I want you to recognize the pattern. What were the common elements? What time of day was it? How much sleep had you gotten? What had you eaten? Who were you with? What was happening in your body right before the breakdown? This is your chaos signature, the early warning signs that you're about to lose control. Most people never map this pattern, so they're blindsided every single time. But once you see it clearly, you can intervene before the hijacking happens. The hidden cost of chronic reactivity is staggering. It's not just the individual moments of lost control, it's the cumulative damage to your reputation, your relationships, and your nervous system itself. Every time you react instead of respond, you're deepening that neural pathway. You're training your brain that chaos is the default response to challenge. And here's the cruel irony. The more you try to control your reactivity through sheer force of will, the more reactive you become. This is the paradox of control. Tension creates more tension. Resistance creates more resistance. The white-knuckle grip approach to staying calm actually guarantees you'll eventually explode. Let me tell you about Marcus. He was a private equity executive managing a $400 million fund. Smart guy, Ivy League education, 15 years of experience. But he had a problem. Under pressure, he became aggressive, short-tempered, dismissive. His team was terrified of him during deal negotiations. He lost 2 key employees in 6 months, both citing his volatility as the reason they left. And then he lost something bigger. A major deal fell through because the CEO on the other side of the table simply didn't want to work with someone so intense. That deal would have returned $80 million. Marcus didn't have an intelligence problem or a skill problem. He had a nervous system problem, and it cost him everything. Now contrast that with his competitor, Jennifer. She was managing a smaller fund, less prestigious background, but she had one massive advantage. She could stay calm when everyone else was losing their minds. During the same market turbulence that made Marcus volatile, Jennifer was steady. Her team trusted her. Her investment partners felt safe with her, and she closed the deal that Marcus lost. Not because she was smarter, but because she was calmer. The person who can maintain their center while others spiral has an almost unfair advantage in any competitive environment. So what do calm people actually do differently? This is the question that matters. Because calmness isn't a personality trait you're born with or without. It's a set of learnable skills, specific behaviors that anyone can develop. And the first skill is the shift from absorption to observation. Most people absorb everything that happens around them. Someone's angry. They feel that anger in their own body. Someone's anxious. That anxiety becomes theirs. The room is chaotic. They become chaotic. They're like emotional sponges, soaking up every bit of stress and tension in their environment. Calm people observe instead. They notice the anger without becoming angry. They see the anxiety without becoming anxious. They maintain a slight distance, a psychological space between stimulus and response. This isn't coldness or disconnection. It's sovereignty. It's the recognition that other people's emotional states don't have to become yours. The second skill is the 3-second rule. Elite responders, whether they're surgeons, pilots, or hostage negotiators, all use some version of this. When something happens, before they act, they pause. Just 3 seconds. In that pause, they're doing several things simultaneously. They're taking a breath. They're assessing the actual threat level versus their perceived threat level. They're checking in with their body. And they're asking themselves one critical question. What does this situation actually require from me? 3 seconds seems like nothing. But in those 3 seconds, you move from reactive to responsive. You give your prefrontal cortex time to come back online. You interrupt the automatic stress pathway. You create the possibility of choosing your response instead of being hijacked by it. If you watch calm people carefully, you'll notice their physiology is different. Their breathing is slower and deeper. Their heart rate is lower. Their muscles are relaxed but ready, not tense. Their voice stays in a lower register, even under pressure. This isn't an accident or a genetic gift. These are all trainable physiological responses. Your body and mind aren't separate systems. They're constantly communicating through what's called the gut-brain axis and the vagus nerve. When you change your body, you change your mind. When you change your breath, you change your biochemistry. This is the foundation of everything else we're going to build. Another observable difference is how calm people use their body in space. Their posture is open but grounded. They take up space without aggression. They move deliberately, not frantically. They maintain eye contact without staring. These aren't just social signals to other people. They're signals to your own nervous system. When your body language communicates safety and control, your brain starts to believe it. This is called embodied cognition, and it's one of the fastest routes to regulation. Calm people also conserve energy in ways that reactive people don't. Think about how exhausting it is to be constantly activated, constantly on high alert, constantly bracing for the next crisis. Reactive people are running their nervous system at redline all day long. By evening, they're depleted, irritable, and fragile. Calm people have energy reserves because they're not burning fuel on unnecessary activation. They respond to what actually requires response and ignore what doesn't. This is strategic stillness, the art of doing nothing when nothing is required. Here's something fascinating. When researchers study elite performers across different fields, from athletes to artists to executives, they find a common pattern. Before any critical moment, there's a pause, a moment of deliberate stillness where they center themselves. Athletes call it getting in the zone. Surgeons call it focus. Meditators call it presence. But it's the same phenomenon. It's the ability to create what I call temporal space, the feeling that you have more time than you actually do. When you're calm, time seems to slow down. When you're panicked, time speeds up. Same objective reality, completely different subjective experience. And that subjective experience is what determines your performance. I interviewed 12 world-class performers for this book, people at the absolute top of their fields. A Navy SEAL commander, an emergency room trauma surgeon, a hostage negotiator, a professional poker player who's won $18 million, a classical violinist who performs for millions, a wildfire incident commander, and others. I asked each of them the same question. What do you do internally to stay calm when everything around you is chaos? Their answers were remarkably consistent. They all had some form of breathing protocol. They all had a pre-performance ritual that signaled their nervous system to regulate. They all had a way of reframing pressure as challenge rather than threat. And they all practiced their calm during low-stakes situations, so it was available during high-stakes moments. None of them relied on willpower. They all had systems. Let's talk about breathing, because this is where most people's eyes glaze over. You've heard it 1,000 times. Just breathe. Take a deep breath. But here's what nobody tells you. Most people are breathing wrong, and their wrong breathing is actually making their anxiety worse. Shallow chest breathing, the kind most of us do all day long, signals to your nervous system that you're in danger. It increases carbon dioxide in your blood, which triggers feelings of panic. It activates your sympathetic nervous system, your fight-or-flight response. So when you're stressed and taking quick, shallow breaths, you're literally creating a feedback loop of more stress. The vagus nerve is your body's reset button. It's the longest cranial nerve in your body, running from your brainstem down through your chest and abdomen, connecting to your heart, lungs, and digestive system. When you activate your vagus nerve, you trigger what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest response. This is the antidote to fight or flight. Your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, your digestion improves, your immune system strengthens, and your mind clears. The fastest way to activate your vagus nerve is through specific breathing patterns. Not just any breathing, specific patterns that have been studied extensively and proven to work. Let me teach you the first one right now. It's called box breathing, and it's the standard protocol used by Navy SEALs to stay calm in combat. Here's how it works. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Breathe out through your mouth for 4 seconds. Hold empty for 4 seconds. That's one cycle. You do this for 2 minutes, which is 8 full cycles. What's happening physiologically is remarkable. The 4-second inhale activates your sympathetic nervous system slightly, giving you alertness. The 4-second hold at the top allows oxygen to fully saturate your bloodstream. The 4-second exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, bringing calm. And the 4-second hold at the bottom reinforces that parasympathetic activation. The equal counts create what's called coherence, a balanced state where your heart rate variability increases, which is the gold standard measurement of nervous system health. The second protocol comes from Stanford neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. It's called the physiological sigh, and it's the fastest way to reduce stress in real time. You take 2 quick inhales through your nose. The second one, just a short sip of air on top of the first. Then you do 1 long, slow exhale through your mouth. That's it. 1 cycle. You can do this in the middle of a conversation without anyone noticing. What makes this work is the double inhale. When you're stressed, your lungs develop tiny collapsed areas called alveoli. Those collapsed alveoli reduce oxygen exchange, which makes you feel more anxious. The double inhale pops open those collapsed areas. Then the long exhale activates your vagus nerve and brings immediate calm. You can literally feel your shoulders drop and your mind clear in about 5 seconds. The third protocol is ancient, but now backed by neuroscience. It's called the 4-7-8 method. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. The extended hold and even longer exhale create powerful parasympathetic activation. This one is particularly effective for falling asleep or calming down from high activation. The key is that the exhale is longer than the inhale, which is the pattern that signals safety to your nervous system. Now, here's what most people get wrong about breathing techniques. They try them once, don't feel an immediate dramatic shift, and conclude they don't work. But breathing protocols are cumulative. The first time you do box breathing, you might notice a 10% reduction in anxiety. The 10th time, maybe 30%. The 100th time, you've literally rewired your nervous system to default to calm. This is about training, not magic. Your nervous system is like a muscle. It strengthens with consistent practice. Most people give up right before the breakthrough. Heart rate variability, or HRV, is the measurement you want to pay attention to. This is the variation in time between each heartbeat. Counterintuitively, more variation is better. It means your nervous system is flexible and responsive. Low HRV means your system is rigid and stressed. You can measure your HRV with dozens of apps and wearable devices now. And the single best way to improve your HRV is consistent breathing practice. 20 minutes a day of any of these protocols will increase your HRV within 2 weeks. And increased HRV correlates with better decision-making, better emotional regulation, better sleep, and better overall health. There's one more breathing hack I need to tell you about. It's based on the mammalian dive reflex. When your face gets cold, especially the area around your eyes and nose, your body triggers an automatic calm response. Your heart rate drops immediately. Blood flow redirects to your core organs. Your nervous system shifts to parasympathetic. This is an evolutionary mechanism that allows mammals to dive underwater without panicking. You can trigger this reflex by splashing cold water on your face or holding a cold pack to your face for 30 seconds. It sounds too simple to work, but the physiology is undeniable. When you're in acute stress, this is one of your emergency tools. The common mistakes people make with breathing are worth addressing. First, they try to breathe too deeply, forcing air in until they're dizzy. The goal isn't maximum air, it's rhythmic regulation. Second, they only breathe consciously when they're already in crisis. By then, it's harder to access the technique. You need to practice when you're calm, so it's available when you're not. Third, they hold tension in their body while breathing. Your jaw should be loose, your shoulders should be down, your belly should be soft. If you're tense while breathing, you're working against yourself. Let me give you a 7-day breathing foundation to start with. Day 1, just notice your breath without changing it. Set timers throughout the day and simply observe how you're breathing. Day 2, practice box breathing for 2 minutes in the morning. Day 3, add 2 minutes in the evening. Day 4, use the physiological sigh 3 times throughout the day. Day 5, combine box breathing morning and evening with physiological sighs during the day. Day 6, add the 4-7-8 method before bed. Now let's address the chaos happening between your ears. Your thoughts under pressure are probably destroying you and you don't even realize it. There are 8 cognitive distortions that happen reliably when you're stressed. First is catastrophizing, assuming the worst possible outcome is the most likely outcome. Your boss wants to talk to you, so obviously you're getting fired. Your partner seems distant, so obviously they're leaving you. Second is black and white thinking, eliminating all nuance and seeing only extremes. You make one mistake, so you're a complete failure. One thing goes wrong, so everything is ruined. Third is mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking about you. And of course you assume they're thinking negative things. Fourth is fortune telling, predicting the future with absolute certainty, always predicting disaster. Fifth is overgeneralization, taking one event and making it a pattern. You failed once, so you always fail. Someone rejected you once, so everyone will reject you. Sixth is personalization, making everything about you even when it's not. The meeting got canceled, and you assume it's because someone doesn't want to see you, when actually it's because of a scheduling conflict. Seventh is emotional reasoning, believing that because you feel something, it must be true. You feel like a fraud, so you must be a fraud. You feel unloved, so you must be unloved. And eighth is should statements, torturing yourself with rigid rules about how things ought to be. I should be further along. This shouldn't be so hard. They should have known better. These distortions aren't random. They're specific patterns your stressed brain falls into reliably. And the first step to breaking them is simply recognizing them. When you catch yourself catastrophizing, you can label it. Oh, I'm catastrophizing right now. That simple act of labeling creates distance. You're no longer fused with the thought. You're observing the thought. And once you're observing it, you can question it. Here's a practical method for testing the accuracy of your fears. I call it the spreadsheet method, because it treats your thoughts like data to be analyzed rather than truth to be believed. Take any fear or worry and write it down specifically. Not I'm anxious about work, but I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. Then ask yourself these questions. What's the actual evidence for this thought? Not feelings, evidence. What's the evidence against this thought? What's the worst case scenario if this fear came true? What's the best case scenario? What's the most realistic scenario? What would I tell a friend who had this fear? If this fear came true, what would I do? What can I control in this situation? What can't I control? When you work through these questions honestly, something remarkable happens. 90% of your fears deflate. They lose their power because they can't survive contact with reality. You realize that even in the worst case scenario, you'd survive and adapt. You realize you have more control than you thought. You realize the most likely outcome isn't catastrophic. This isn't positive thinking. This is accurate thinking. And accurate thinking is inherently calming because it's based in reality rather than distorted perception. The rumination loop is the mental trap that destroys more peace than almost anything else. It's when you replay a negative event or conversation over and over, each time feeling the stress response as if it's happening again. You had an argument 3 days ago, but you're still having it in your mind. You made a mistake last week, but you're still beating yourself up about it. Rumination serves no useful purpose. It doesn't solve problems. It doesn't create insight. It just re-traumatizes you repeatedly. Breaking the rumination loop requires interrupting the pattern physically. When you notice you're replaying something, you need to do something that demands your attention. Go for a walk and count your steps. Do push-ups. Call a friend and talk about something completely different. Splash cold water on your face. The goal is to break the mental loop with physical action. Thought labeling is a mindfulness technique that's been studied extensively through fMRI brain scans. When you label a thought, when you say to yourself, that's anxiety, or that's anger, or that's fear, you activate your prefrontal cortex and decrease activation in your amygdala. Literally, labeling the emotion reduces its intensity. The key is to label it as a temporary state, not your identity. Not I am anxious, but I'm having anxious thoughts right now. Not I am angry, but I'm experiencing anger. This linguistic shift is profound because it reminds you that thoughts and emotions are passing weather patterns, not permanent conditions. Let me introduce you to the so what cascade. This is where you follow your fear all the way to its logical conclusion and discover it's not as catastrophic as your mind made it seem. Let's say you're afraid of looking stupid in a presentation. Okay, so what if you do look stupid? Well, people might judge me. So what if they judge you? I might lose respect. So what if you lose some respect? My career might suffer. So what if your career suffers? I might not get promoted. So what if you don't get promoted this year? I'd have to wait longer for the position I want. So what if you have to wait? I guess I'd keep doing good work and try again. And if you never got promoted at this company, I'd eventually find another opportunity elsewhere. And if you couldn't find another opportunity, I'd reassess my career path and find something that fits better. And if you had to completely change careers, I'd learn new skills and build something different. See what happened there? When you follow the fear all the way down, you realize that even in the worst case scenario, you'd adapt and survive. You always have options. Fear collapses when you face it directly. Reframing under fire is a linguistic skill that changes your entire relationship with pressure. Instead of saying this is terrible, you can say this is challenging. Instead of I can't handle this, you say I haven't figured this out yet. Instead of everything is falling apart, you say I'm facing multiple problems that need solutions. These aren't just semantic games. The language you use shapes your neurological response. When you call something a crisis, your brain activates crisis mode. When you call it a challenge, your brain activates problem-solving mode. Same situation, completely different neurochemistry. Here's a practice that high performers use consistently. It's called the worry appointment. You set aside 15 minutes a day, same time every day, for worrying. During that time, you let yourself think about every fear, every concern, every worst-case scenario. You write them down. You feel them fully. But outside of that 15-minute window, whenever a worry arises, you acknowledge it and tell yourself, I'll think about that during my worry appointment. What this does is contain your anxiety to a specific time and place rather than letting it leak into every moment of your day. And interestingly, when worry appointment time comes, you often find you don't even want to worry about the things that were bothering you earlier. They've lost their charge. Mental decluttering through a weekly cognitive dump is essential hygiene for your mind. Just like you shower regularly to clean your body, you need to regularly clear out the mental accumulation. Every week, sit down with a notebook and do a complete brain dump. Write everything that's on your mind. Worries, tasks, ideas, resentments, excitements, all of it. Don't organize it or judge it. Just get it out of your head and onto paper. The physical act of externalizing your thoughts reduces their power over you. Once it's on paper, you can sort through it rationally. What needs action? What needs to be let go? What's actually important versus what's just mental noise? There's a crucial distinction between useful concern and toxic worry. Useful concern identifies a problem and motivates action. You notice your car is making a weird noise, so you take it to a mechanic. That's useful. Toxic worry loops on problems you can't control or haven't happened yet without leading to any productive action. You imagine your car breaking down in 6 different scenarios and feel anxious about all of them, but never actually do anything about it. That's toxic. When you notice yourself worrying, ask this question: is this leading me toward action or just creating suffering? If there's an action you can take, take it. If there's no action available, you're just creating unnecessary pain. For the next 48 hours, I want you to track your thought patterns. Carry a small notebook or use your phone. Every time you notice a strong emotion, pause and write down the thought that preceded it. You'll start to see patterns. You'll notice that certain situations trigger specific thought distortions. You'll realize you have favorite catastrophes you return to repeatedly. This awareness is the foundation of change. You can't modify what you can't see. The thought audit will show you exactly where your mental energy is going and where you're creating unnecessary suffering. Let's shift to emotions, because here's where people get confused. They think calm means not feeling. That's wrong. Calm means feeling without being controlled. Emotions are data. They're information about what matters to you, what you value, what you need. But they're not commands. They're not facts. And they're not your identity. When you feel angry, that doesn't mean you should act on your anger. It means anger is present, giving you information that something feels unjust or that a boundary has been crossed. When you feel afraid, that doesn't mean danger is present. It means your system has perceived something as potentially threatening and want. Here's something most people don't know about emotions. They have a natural lifespan of about 90 seconds. When an emotion arises, if you simply feel it without resisting it or feeding it with more thoughts, it crests like a wave and naturally subsides within 90 seconds. But most people don't let emotions complete their cycle. They either push the emotion away, which makes it stick around longer, or they tell themselves stories about the emotion, which amplifies it and extends it. The skill is to ride the 90-second wave. Feel it fully, without judgment, without story, and let it pass through you. This is emotional mastery. Not eliminating feelings, but allowing them to flow. Affect labeling is what you do in real time when you're overwhelmed. You're in a difficult conversation and you feel your chest tightening, your throat closing, your eyes starting to burn. Instead of trying to push through or pretending you're fine, you simply acknowledge internally, this is grief, or this is fear, or this is shame. You don't have to say it out loud. Just naming it internally gives you back some ground to stand on. You're no longer drowning in the emotion. You're noticing the emotion. And that noticing creates the observer stance, the slight psychological distance that allows you to choose your response. The observer stance is the key to emotional freedom. Instead of I am angry, you recognize I'm observing anger in my system right now. This isn't dissociation or avoidance. You're still feeling the anger fully, but you're not identified with it. You're not fused with it. There's you, and there's the emotion you're experiencing. This creates what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to think about your thinking, to feel your feelings while simultaneously observing them. It sounds paradoxical, but with practice it becomes natural. And it's the difference between being hijacked by your emotions and being informed by them. Most people have terrible emotional vocabulary. They know maybe 10 words for emotions: happy, sad, angry, scared, excited, nervous, and a few others. But researchers have identified over 150 distinct emotional states. The more precisely you can identify what you're feeling, the better you can respond to it. You're not just angry. You might be frustrated, which is different from furious, which is different from irritated, which is different from resentful. You're not just sad. You might be disappointed or melancholic or grieving or lonely. The more granular your emotional vocabulary, the more control you have. Because precise language about internal states activates your prefrontal cortex and gives you options for response. This is called emotional granularity, and it's a learnable skill. When you're feeling intense emotion, do a somatic scan. Close your eyes and move your attention through your body. Where do you feel this emotion physically? Is it in your chest, your throat, your stomach, your shoulders? What's the quality of the sensation? Is it tight, heavy, hot, fluttering, hollow? Just noticing where emotion lives in your body starts to release it, because emotions aren't just mental. They're full-body experiences. And when you bring conscious attention to the physical sensation, you're completing the stress response cycle. You're allowing your nervous system to process and release what it's holding. Compassionate self-talk is how resilient people speak to themselves during difficulty. They don't berate themselves. They don't say, "I'm so stupid," or "I always mess everything up," or "What's wrong with me?" They talk to themselves the way they'd talk to a good friend who's struggling. They say, "This is really hard right now," or "I'm doing the best I can," or "It makes sense that I feel this way given what I'm dealing with." This isn't self-pity or excuse-making. It's self-compassion, which research shows is far more effective than self-criticism for creating behavior change and maintaining resilience. There's an important timing wisdom to understand. When you're in the heat of an intense emotion, that's not the time to make decisions or take action. That's the time to feel, to breathe, to ground, to let the 90-second wave pass. Once you've moved through the peak intensity and you're back to some baseline, then you can think clearly about what, if any, action is needed. The question isn't, should I feel this or should I act on this? It's, am I feeling or am I acting? They're different modes, and wisdom is knowing which mode the moment requires. I want you to expand your emotional vocabulary starting now. There's a tool called the feeling wheel that maps out 150 emotional states in concentric circles. At the center are the 6 basic emotions. In the next ring, those branch into more specific variations. In the outer ring, even more nuanced distinctions. For the next week, consult this wheel every time you feel something and find the most precise word for your internal state. This practice alone will increase your emotional intelligence measurably. You can find the feeling wheel with a simple web search. Print it out. Keep it visible. Use it daily. Your environment is either supporting your calm or undermining it, and most people have never consciously designed their space for nervous system regulation. Let's start with the obvious culprits you're probably ignoring. Lighting matters more than you think. Harsh overhead fluorescent lighting increases cortisol. It signals to your brain that it's the middle of the day even when it's not, which disrupts your circadian rhythm and makes you feel chronically activated. Natural light is ideal. If that's not possible, warm-toned lamps at eye level or below are significantly better than overhead lights. Sound matters. Constant background noise, especially unpredictable noise, keeps your nervous system on alert. If you can't control the noise in your environment, noise-canceling headphones or white noise can give your system the auditory predictability it craves. Clutter is cognitive load. Every item in your visual field that's out of place is a tiny decision your brain hasn't made yet. Put that away. Deal with that. Remember that thing. Your conscious mind might not register this, but your nervous system does. It's low-grade stress that accumulates throughout the day. Minimalism isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's a nervous system protocol. The less visual chaos in your environment, the less mental chaos in your mind. This doesn't mean your space needs to be sterile. It means everything should have a place, and most surfaces should be clear. The notification epidemic is destroying people's capacity for calm, and almost nobody is taking it seriously enough. Every notification is an interruption. Every interruption is a context switch. Every context switch creates a small stress response. You might get 50 or 100 notifications a day. That's 50 or 100 microstressors pulling your attention away from what you're doing and activating your sympathetic nervous system. The solution is radical. Turn off all notifications except for the people and apps that genuinely matter. Not just silencing them, actually disabling them. Most people are terrified to do this because they're afraid they'll miss something important. But the truth is, you're missing what's actually important because you're constantly interrupted by what isn't. Strategic. Simplification is the practice of reducing decision fatigue by creating default systems for recurring choices. Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day, not because he couldn't afford variety, but because he didn't want to waste mental energy on clothing decisions. You can apply this principle everywhere. Eat the same breakfast every day. Follow the same morning routine. Have a default lunch option. Create templates for emails you send frequently. The more decisions you automate, the more cognitive capacity you have available for what actually matters. This isn't boring. This is brilliant. Sensory design is about consciously choosing the inputs your nervous system receives. Colors affect mood. Blue tones are generally calming. Red tones are activating. Green tones are restorative. Textures matter. Rough, hard surfaces create subtle stress. Soft, natural textures promote relaxation. Temperature matters. Slightly cool environments promote alertness. Slightly warm environments promote calm. Scent matters. Lavender and chamomile have been proven to reduce anxiety. Peppermint and citrus increase alertness. You can design your environment to support whatever state you need to cultivate. Boundary architecture is the physical structure that enforces mental clarity. This means having distinct spaces for distinct activities. A workspace that's only for work. A relaxation space that's only for rest. A sleep space that's only for sleep. When you blur these boundaries, when you work in bed or watch TV in your office, you condition your nervous system to be confused about what mode it should be in. Clear physical boundaries create clear mental states. If you don't have multiple rooms available, you can create boundaries through other means. A specific chair is your work chair. A specific corner is your calm corner. Your brain will learn the associations. Digital hygiene is as important as physical hygiene, maybe more so. Set app limits on your phone for social media and news. Switch your phone to grayscale mode, which makes it significantly less addictive. Create notification protocols where you check messages at specific times rather than constantly. Have a digital sunset where all screens go off an hour before bed. Use website blockers during focused work time. Treat your digital environment with the same intentionality you treat your physical environment, because it's affecting your nervous system just as much, maybe more. Your morning and evening environments are the bookends of your day, and they set the tone for everything in between. In the morning, avoid screens for the first hour if possible. Natural light, movement, and a calm routine signal to your body that it's safe to wake up gradually. In the evening, dim lights, lower stimulation, and consistent wind-down rituals signal that it's safe to move towards sleep. Most people jolt awake with alarms and notifications, stay activated all day, then wonder why they can't sleep at night. You're training your nervous system to be chronically activated. Gentle mornings and evenings create the structure for sustainable calm. If you commute, that's dead time for most people. But it could be reset time. Instead of listening to news or getting on social media, use your commute as a transition space. Listen to calming music or silence. Practice breathing exercises. Do the review and preview practice where you review what you're grateful for from the day behind you and preview how you want to show up for the day ahead. Your commute can be the most calming part of your day if you design it intentionally. Everyone should have an emergency calm kit, a collection of portable tools you can use anywhere to regulate your nervous system. A pair of earplugs for when the environment is too loud. A fidget tool for when you need proprioceptive input. A small bottle of essential oil for scent-based calming. A list of 3 breathing exercises you've memorized. A photo or object that reminds you of safety and peace. A playlist of music that regulates you. This isn't woo-woo. This is practical nervous system support that you can access in the middle of a stressful meeting, on a turbulent flight, or in any moment when you feel yourself starting to spiral. For the next 30 days, I want you to audit your environment room by room. Walk through each space and ask, what in this room is creating stress? What's creating calm? What needs to be removed? What needs to be added? What needs to be rearranged? Then make one change per week. By the end of the month, you'll have consciously designed your entire environment for regulation rather than activation. This single change, independent of any internal work, will noticeably improve your baseline calm. Now let's talk about the hardest environment to stay calm in, relationships. Especially when the other person isn't calm, emotional contagion is real and powerful. Mirror neurons in your brain automatically fire when you observe someone else's emotional state, making you feel what they feel. Someone's anxious, you start feeling anxious. Someone's angry, you start feeling defensive. This is unconscious and automatic. It's how empathy works, but it's also how you get hijacked by other people's dysregulation. The key is to recognize when you're being pulled into someone else's emotional state and consciously choose whether to join them there or maintain your center. Here's what most people don't realize. When you stay calm while someone else is activated, you're not being cold or dismissive. You're being a regulated nervous system that their nervous system can potentially sync with. This is called co-regulation. Just like emotional states can spread through contagion, calm can spread too. Your regulated presence can help someone else regulate, but only if you don't get pulled into their chaos first. This is the calm presence effect, and it's one of the most valuable skills you can develop. De-escalation linguistics are specific sentence structures that lower tension rather than raising it. First, acknowledge the other person's emotional state before anything else. You seem really upset about this. I can see this matters to you. This isn't agreeing with them. It's validating that they're experiencing something real. Second, slow down your speech. When someone is activated, they tend to speak fast. If you match their speed, you escalate the situation. If you speak slower than them, you create a pace they can entrain to. Third, lower your volume. Again, most people match volume, which escalates. Speak slightly quieter than you normally would, and they'll often lower their volume to hear you. Fourth, ask genuine questions. What happened? What do you need? Help me understand. Questions engage their prefrontal cortex and interrupt their amygdala activation. Boundaries without walls is the practice of staying connected to someone while not absorbing their emotional state. You care about them. You're present with them. You're listening, but you're not taking on their anxiety, their anger, their fear. This is hard because most people think caring means merging, but merging isn't helpful. When both people are drowning, nobody can help. One person needs to stay on the shore, grounded and calm, so they can throw a rope to the person in the water. That's you. You stay grounded not because you don't care, but because you care enough to be useful. The criticism response is where most people lose their composure. Someone criticizes you, and immediately you're defensive, reactive, justifying yourself, or attacking back. This is automatic for most people, but it doesn't have to be. The protocol is simple but requires practice. First, take a breath. Literally pause before responding. Second, separate the content from the delivery. Is there any truth in what they're saying, even if they're saying it poorly? Third, ask a clarifying question. Can you tell me more about that? What specifically are you concerned about? This gives you time to think and them time to calm down. Fourth, acknowledge whatever part of the criticism is true. You're right that I did X. I can see why that was frustrating. This disarms defensiveness on both sides. Fifth, state what you'll do differently if appropriate, or state your perspective calmly if you disagree. The key is you're responding, not reacting. You maintained your center throughout. Picture someone yelling at you. Maybe it's your partner, your boss, your parent, a stranger. Their face is red. Their voice is loud. They're saying hurtful things. Your immediate impulse is to either yell back, defend yourself, or shut down. But here's what you do instead. You take a long, slow breath through your nose. You soften your posture slightly. You make eye contact, but not aggressive eye contact. You keep your voice level and quiet. You say, I can see you're really upset. I want to understand. But I need you to talk to me without yelling. If they continue yelling, you say, I want to hear you, but I can't do that while you're yelling at me. I'm going to step away for a few minutes, and when you're ready to talk, I'm here. Then you physically remove yourself. You don't storm off angrily. You leave calmly, clearly, with a boundary. This is strength. This is respecting yourself while not attacking them. This is calm in action. The empathy-equanimity balance is the middle path between being cold and being merged. You have empathy, the ability to understand and care about what someone else is feeling, and you have equanimity, the ability to remain stable and centered regardless of external circumstances. Most people swing too far in one direction. Either they're so empathetic they absorb everyone's pain and become overwhelmed, or they're so boundaried they seem cold and disconnected. The balance is feeling with someone without losing yourself, caring deeply without carrying their emotional burden. This requires constantly checking in with yourself. Whose emotion am I feeling right now? Is this mine or theirs? Do I need to step back and reground? Preparing for difficult conversations is where most people fail. They walk into the conversation already activated, already defensive, already imagining worst-case scenarios. By the time the conversation starts, they're not calm. They're barely holding it together. The pre-game calm ritual changes everything. Before any difficult conversation, you spend 10 minutes doing box breathing. You write down the main points you want to make. You identify your non-negotiables. You remind yourself that you can't control the other person's response, only your own behavior. You set an intention for how you want to show up, regardless of how they show up. Maybe it's I want to be clear and kind, or I want to listen more than I talk. This preparation doesn't guarantee the conversation will go well, but it guarantees you'll show up as your best self. Repair after rupture is what you do when you lose your calm in a relationship. Because you will. Everyone does eventually. The question isn't whether you'll have moments of reactivity, it's how quickly you repair them. Research shows that the speed of repair matters more than the perfection of your behavior. When you snap, when you say something hurtful, when you react instead of respond, you need to circle back as soon as possible, within hours, not days. You acknowledge what you did. You don't justify it. You don't say, but you made me. You own your behavior. You apologize specifically for the impact, and you state what you'll do differently next time. This isn't weakness. This is the mark of someone committed to growth. Here's a practice that will transform your relational capacity. It's called the mirror exercise. You need a partner willing to participate. They're going to intentionally escalate, getting louder, more emotional, more activated. Your job is to stay calm. Use all your tools. Breathe. Maintain open body language. Speak slowly and quietly. Ask questions. Validate their feelings. Don't match their energy. This is hard and uncomfortable, which is exactly why it's valuable practice. You're training your nervous system to stay regulated when someone else isn't. Start with 30-second rounds, then build to longer durations. This is the relational equivalent of weight training. You're building calm capacity under load. Let's talk about decision-making, because this is where calmness matters most. Your smartest, most rational self makes decisions calmly. Your stressed, activated self makes terrible decisions. The problem is that important decisions often come during high-stress moments. You have to decide whether to take the job, end the relationship, make the investment, have the confrontation, all while your nervous system is screaming at you. Understanding what stress does to your decision-making is critical. When you're stressed, blood flow reduces in your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function, long-term thinking, and rational analysis. At the same time, your amygdala is hyperactive, scanning for threat, catastrophizing, and pushing you toward quick, reactive choices. This is decision decay, and it's why you look back at choices you made under pressure and think, what was I thinking? You literally weren't thinking clearly. Your brain was in survival mode, optimized for immediate threat response, not complex decision-making. The OODA loop is a decision-making framework developed by military strategist John Boyd. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Most people skip straight from observe to act, or sometimes they don't even observe clearly before acting. But each step is essential, especially under pressure. Observe means gather information. What's actually happening, not what you fear is happening. Orient means make sense of the information in context. How does this fit with what you know? What are the patterns? Decide means evaluate options and choose. What are the possible responses? Which aligns with your values and goals? Act means execute your decision with commitment. Then you loop back to observe the results and adjust. This framework slows you down just enough to make good choices while still allowing speed when speed is necessary. Forcing functions are questions that create clarity in chaos. When you're overwhelmed by a decision, asking the right question can cut through everything. Here are the essential ones. What would this look like if it were easy? What would I do if I weren't afraid? What matters most here? What am I actually trying to accomplish? What will I regret more, doing this or not doing this? These questions interrupt your stress spiral and redirect your attention to what actually matters. They engage your prefrontal cortex and quiet your amygdala. The 10-10-10 rule comes from business writer Susie Welch. Before making any decision, ask yourself how you'll feel about this choice in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. This creates temporal perspective that stress destroys. In 10 minutes, you might feel relief at having avoided confrontation by staying silent. In 10 months, you'll probably regret not speaking up. In 10 years, it might not matter at all, or vice versa. The decision that seems urgent right now might be irrelevant in the long term. This framework helps you see past the intensity of the moment. Regret minimization is the framework Jeff Bezos used when deciding whether to start Amazon. He asked himself, when I'm 80 years old and looking back on my life, will I regret not trying this? The answer was clear. He wouldn't regret trying and failing nearly as much as he'd regret not trying at all. You can apply this to any major decision. Project yourself forward to the end of your life and look back. Which choice would your future self thank you for? Which choice minimizes the chance of deep regret? Pre-commitment strategies mean deciding before pressure arrives. A recovering alcoholic decides before going to a party that they won't drink, no matter what. They don't wait until they're at the party with a drink in front of them to make that decision, because in that moment, their willpower is compromised. You can do this with any high-stakes decision. Before the argument starts, decide how you want to behave during conflict. Before the investment opportunity appears, decide your criteria for what you will and won't invest in. Before the temptation arises, decide what you stand for. Pre-commitment removes the decision from the heat of the moment when your judgment is compromised. The trusted advisor test is simple and powerful. What would you tell your best friend if they were facing this exact situation? Often, you have clarity about other people's situations that you don't have about your own, so remove yourself from the equation. Imagine your friend telling you about this decision, giving you all the same information you have. What would you advise them? That's probably the right choice for you too. The distance created by this hypothetical gives you access to wisdom that your stress is blocking. Speed versus accuracy is a crucial calibration. Some decisions need to be made fast. If there's immediate danger, you don't have time for extended analysis. You act on instinct and refine later. But most decisions aren't actually time-sensitive, even when they feel that way. When someone says, "I need an answer right now," often the right response is, "I need time to think about this. I'll have an answer for you tomorrow." Distinguish between decisions that are genuinely urgent and decisions that just feel urgent. Give yourself the time your prefrontal cortex needs to do its job. Let me give you 12 decision scenarios to practice with. Set a timer for each one, varying from 30 seconds to 5 minutes depending on the scenario's complexity. Practice moving through the OODA loop. Practice using forcing functions. Practice feeling the pressure without being controlled by it. The scenarios range from simple to complex. You're offered a job that pays more but requires relocation away from family. Your partner wants to have a difficult conversation right now, but you're exhausted. You discover a colleague is taking credit for your work. You have an opportunity to invest in a startup, but the timeline is short. A friend asks to borrow a significant amount of money. You're in a meeting and someone says something incorrect that makes you look bad. You realize a project you committed to isn't aligned with your values anymore. Someone treats you disrespectfully in public. You have to choose between two good opportunities but can only do one. You made a mistake that you could hide or disclose. You're asked to compromise on something important to keep the peace. You discover information that changes your perspective on a committed course of action. Practice these until your responses become automatic. You're building decision-making muscle under pressure. You're training your nervous system to stay calm when stakes are high. This is the work. This is what separates reactive from responsive. Your body is the foundation of everything we've talked about. You can have perfect mental techniques, but if your body is dysregulated, your mind won't follow. Physical intervention often beats mental intervention because your body communicates to your brain through multiple pathways. When you change your body state, your brain gets the message and shifts accordingly. This is the body-first approach, and it's often faster and more reliable than trying to think your way to calm. Progressive muscle relaxation is a technique developed in the 1930s and still used widely today because it works. You systematically tense and then release each muscle group in your body. Start with your feet. Curl your toes tight for 5 seconds, then release completely. Feel the difference between tension and relaxation. Move to your calves. Tighten, hold, release. Then your thighs, glutes, core, chest, hands, arms, shoulders, neck, face. The entire sequence takes about 10 minutes. What this does is interrupt the chronic low-level tension most people carry without realizing it. That tension keeps your nervous system activated. When you release it consciously, your system gets the message that the threat has passed. Cold exposure is getting attention now, but it's been used for thousands of years across cultures for nervous system training. When you expose your body to cold, either through cold showers, ice baths, or even cold water on your face, you trigger an immediate stress response. Your body wants to fight it. Your breath wants to become rapid and shallow. Your muscles want to tense. But if you breathe slowly, relax your muscles, and stay with the cold, you're training your nervous system that you can be calm even during discomfort. You're building stress tolerance. Start small. 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. Then build. The discomfort is the point. You're practicing staying calm during activation. The grounding technique is your emergency reset when you're spiraling. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Name 5 things you can see. Really look at them. Notice details. Name 4 things you can touch. Feel the texture. Name 3 things you can hear. Listen carefully. Name 2 things you can smell. If nothing is immediately obvious, smell your shirt, your skin. Name 1 thing you can taste, even if it's just the inside of your mouth. This technique works because it pulls you out of your racing thoughts and back into your physical senses. You can't be fully in your body and fully in your panic at the same time. Sensory awareness interrupts the spiral. Movement is medicine for your nervous system. When you're stressed, stress hormones build up in your system. Cortisol and adrenaline are designed to fuel physical action. But in modern life, you get stressed sitting at a desk. The hormones flood your system with nowhere to go. Movement metabolizes those stress hormones. A 10-minute walk after a stressful meeting can literally clear the cortisol from your bloodstream. Shaking is even more effective. Just shake your whole body vigorously for 60 seconds. It looks silly, but it's what animals do after a threat passes. They literally shake it off, discharging the activation from. Acupressure points offer another physical intervention. There are 4 points that are most effective for quick calming. First, the space between your eyebrows, called the third eye point. Press gently for 30 seconds while breathing slowly. Second, the webbing between your thumb and index finger. Squeeze firmly and hold. Third, the inside of your wrist, about 3 finger widths down from your palm. Press and breathe. Fourth, the base of your skull, where your neck meets your head. Press both sides simultaneously. These points have been used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years. And while the mechanism isn't fully understood by Western science, the subjective calming effect is undeniable for most people. The containment posture is a physical position that signals safety to your nervous system. Sit with your back supported, feet flat on the ground, hands resting on your thighs or in your lap. Feel the contact points where your body meets the support beneath you. This grounded, supported posture tells your nervous system you're safe. Contrast this with how most people sit when stressed, perched on the edge of their seat, muscles tense, ready to bolt. That posture signals threat and maintains activation. For the next 21 days, you're going to practice daily somatic exercises with progressive difficulty. Days 1 through 7, just do the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique once per day. Days 8 through 14, add progressive muscle relaxation before bed. Days 15 through 21, add cold exposure at the end of your shower and a 10-minute walk after lunch. By day 21, you'll notice measurably different baseline body awareness and regulation capacity. Your body is learning that calm is the default, not activation. Now we're going to talk about the long game, because everything up to this point has been about tools and techniques for specific moments. But the real goal is to increase your baseline calm capacity permanently, to rewire your nervous system so that your default state is regulated, not activated. This doesn't happen through occasional practice. It happens through daily rituals and lifestyle patterns that compound over time. Calm is a practice, not a personality trait. This mindset shift is essential. You weren't born reactive or calm. You learned your current patterns through repetition, which means you can learn new patterns through different repetition. Every time you practice a calm technique, you're strengthening that neural pathway. Every time you respond instead of react, you're weakening the old automatic pattern. This is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain is changeable throughout your entire life. The growth mindset for emotional regulation means believing you can improve and then proving it to yourself through practice. Sleep is the foundation of everything else. When you're sleep deprived, your amygdala is 60% more reactive to negative stimuli. Your prefrontal cortex has reduced function. Your emotional regulation is compromised. All the calm techniques in the world won't work consistently if you're chronically underslept. Sleep architecture means protecting both the quantity and quality of your sleep. 7 to 9 hours per night for most adults. Consistent sleep and wake times, even on weekends. Dark, cool bedroom. No screens for an hour before bed. No caffeine after noon. If you're serious about building unshakable calm, you have to be serious about sleep. Nutrition affects your neurotransmitters, and your neurotransmitters affect your emotional state. This isn't about a perfect diet. It's about understanding that what you eat changes your brain chemistry. Protein provides amino acids that become neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Complex carbohydrates stabilize blood sugar, which stabilizes mood. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fish and flaxseed, reduce inflammation and support brain function. Deficiencies in magnesium, B vitamins, and vitamin D are all linked to increased anxiety. You don't need to become a nutrition expert, but you do need to recognize that if you're eating mostly processed food, high sugar, and low nutrients, you're making calm harder to access. Meditation is the most researched intervention for emotional regulation, but it's also the most misunderstood. People think they need to sit for an hour with a perfectly quiet mind. That's not meditation. That's an advanced state that comes after years of practice. The meditation minimum that actually works is 10 minutes a day of simply noticing your breath and returning your attention when it wanders. That's it. You're not trying to stop thinking. You're practicing the skill of noticing when you're lost in thought and coming back to the present. This is the exact skill you need during stress, the ability to notice you're spiraling and return to center. 10 minutes a day, every day, will change your brain in measurable ways within 8 weeks. Exercise is perhaps the most powerful intervention for anxiety that exists. 30 minutes of moderate cardiovascular exercise produces effects comparable to anti-anxiety medication, without the side effects. The mechanisms are multiple. Exercise metabolizes stress hormones. It increases endorphins and endocannabinoids, which improve mood. It provides a healthy outlet for the physical activation your body creates during stress. It improves sleep. It creates a sense of accomplishment and agency. The optimal protocol is 30 minutes at least 4 days per week, at an intensity where you're breathing hard but can still talk. This isn't optional if you want lasting calm. Movement is medicine. Let's talk honestly about caffeine and stimulants. Caffeine increases cortisol, your stress hormone. It creates artificial activation of your sympathetic nervous system. For many people, their baseline anxiety is actually caffeine-induced. I'm not saying never drink coffee. I'm saying be honest about how it affects you. If you're a person who feels anxious regularly, try eliminating caffeine completely for 2 weeks and see what happens. You might discover that half your anxiety was biochemical, not psychological. If you continue using caffeine, use it strategically. Not first thing in the morning when your cortisol is naturally high anyway. Not afternoon, which will affect your sleep. And not when you're already stressed. The Sabbath principle is the ancient practice of complete rest 1 day per week, and it's more relevant now than ever. Your nervous system needs regular deep recovery, not just sleep. 1 day where you completely disconnect from work, from technology, from productivity. A day where you don't try to accomplish anything. You rest, you play, you connect. You exist without optimization. Most high performers resist this because they fear falling behind. But the research is clear. People who take regular complete rest days are more productive overall, more creative, healthier, and significantly calmer. You can't run at full speed 7 days a week indefinitely. Your system will eventually crash. Scheduled recovery prevents the crash. Journaling for emotional processing works, but only if you do it right. Stream of consciousness dumping where you just complain doesn't help. That actually reinforces negative patterns. Effective journaling has structure. Format 1. Gratitude journal. 3 things you're grateful for every day. This rewires your brain to scan for positive rather than threat. Format 2. Reflection journal. What went well today? What was challenging? What did I learn? This creates meaning from experience. Format 3. Future self journal. Who do I want to become? What patterns do I want to shift? What's one action I can take tomorrow aligned with that? This creates intentionality. Pick one format and practice it daily. Progress metrics matter because what gets measured gets managed. How do you know if you're getting calmer? You need objective assessments. Track your resting heart rate. As your nervous system becomes more regulated, your resting heart rate will decrease. Track your sleep quality through a wearable device or sleep app. Watch for improvements in deep sleep percentage and sleep consistency. Track how quickly you recover from stress. After a difficult moment, how long until you feel back to baseline? Track the frequency of reactive episodes. Are you snapping less often? Track your capacity to sit with discomfort. Can you tolerate uncertainty better than before? Every month, assess these metrics. The progress won't be linear, but the trend should be clear over time. Here's your monthly calm capacity assessment. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of these qualities. Ability to notice stress before it escalates. Effectiveness of your breathing practice. Quality of your sleep. Frequency of reactive episodes. Speed of recovery from stress. Capacity to stay present during difficulty. Effectiveness of your communication during conflict. Consistency of your daily practices. Overall sense of inner stability. Add up your score. Track it every month. You're building calm capacity like you'd build physical strength. Slow progress is still progress. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is measurable improvement over time. Let me take you into a scenario that will test everything you've learned. You're lying in bed 3 in the morning. Your mind is racing. You have a presentation tomorrow that matters enormously, career-defining. You've prepared, but suddenly you're catastrophizing every possible way it could go wrong. Your heart is pounding. Your chest feels tight. You can't sleep, which means you'll be exhausted tomorrow, which makes failure more likely, which makes you more anxious, which makes sleep even harder. The spiral is accelerating. What do? First, you recognize what's happening. This is catastrophizing. This is my amygdala in overdrive. This isn't truth. This is a though. Then you set an intention. I can't control the outcome. I can control my preparation and my presence. I've prepared well. Tomorrow I'll show up as my best self. If it goes well, great. If it doesn't, I'll learn and adapt. You do 10 minutes of box breathing. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. By the 6th minute, you feel fundamentally different. The panic has dissolved. You're not necessarily confident, but you're calm. You turn on a guided sleep meditation. Within 15 minutes, you're asleep. This is the integration of everything. Body, mind, breath, thought, perspective. This is mastery. One more scenario. You're in a meeting. Your colleague just took credit for work you did, right in front of your boss and the leadership team. Everyone is nodding, impressed. No one is correcting the record. Your face is hot. Your hands are shaking. You want to interrupt and call it out. You want to shout liar. You want to storm out. But you stay still. You take a breath. You feel the anger, and you name it internally. This is rage. This is betrayal. You let yourself feel it for 90 seconds without acting on it. The peak passes. You're still angry, but you're not hijacked. You recognize this isn't the moment for confrontation. Not in this room, not with this audience. You make a mental note to address it directly with your colleague afterward, and separately with your boss to clarify your contribution. You stay present in the meeting. You contribute meaningfully to the rest of the discussion. When it ends, people approach you with questions about the project because you know it intimately. Your expertise becomes obvious without you having to defend yourself. After the meeting, you go to the bathroom. You look at yourself in the mirror. You did it. You felt intense emotion without being controlled by it. You chose response over reaction. Later, you have the direct conversation with your colleague. It's uncomfortable, but you're calm. You state facts. I notice you presented the work as yours. I need you to know that I was the primary contributor and I need credit for my work. They're defensive at first, but because you're not attacking, the conversation eventually becomes productive. You follow up with your boss via email, clarifying your role without bad-mouthing your colleague. Professional, clear, boundaried. This is strength. This is stillness in action. Now let's talk about emergencies, because everything we've covered works for everyday stress and pressure. But what about genuine crisis? Medical emergency, accident, sudden loss, actual danger. In those moments, your body's stress response is appropriate. It's designed for exactly those situations. But even then, the person who can maintain some degree of calm will respond more effectively than the person who panics completely. The acute stress response in true crisis is different from chronic stress. Your body is designed to handle acute stress brilliantly. Adrenaline sharpens your focus. Time seems to slow down. You have access to strength and speed you didn't know you had. The problem only comes when you add panic on top of the stress response. Panic is when you lose cognitive function entirely, when you freeze when action is needed, or take action without thinking when stillness is needed. The goal in crisis isn't to be relaxed. It's to be activated without being panicked, alert without being chaotic. The pocket protocol is your 60-second reset you can do literally anywhere. Interrupt whatever's happening. Take 3 deep breaths, each exhale longer than the inhale. Do a physical reset, shake out your hands, roll your shoulders. Say one grounding statement out loud or in your mind. I can handle this, one step at a time. I'm safe right now. Then ask one question. What does this moment actually require? Not what are all the possible disasters. What action is needed right now? This 60-second pause can be the difference between effective response and total breakdown. Crisis triage is the skill of rapidly assessing actual threat level. Is there immediate physical danger? If yes, act fast. Get to safety first, think later. Is there emotional threat but no physical danger? Then you have more time than your nervous system thinks you do. Is this actually just a major inconvenience being perceived as a crisis? Then you definitely have time to regulate before responding. Most things that feel like emergencies aren't. They're urgent or important or stressful, but not actual emergencies. Distinguishing between these categories gives you permission to pause when pausing is appropriate. The mantra method is pre-selecting phrases that interrupt panic loops. In crisis, your prefrontal cortex goes offline. You can't think of what to say to yourself in that moment. So you decide beforehand. Choose 3 phrases that resonate for you. Examples: this too shall pass. I've survived worse. One breath at a time. Breathe and act. I am safe. Stay present. Whatever phrases work for you, memorize them. Practice saying them during low-stress moments. Then when crisis hits, they're available automatically. This isn't positive thinking. This is cognitive anchoring. You're giving your mind something to grab onto when it's spinning. Splashing cold water on your face is an emergency intervention you can do almost anywhere. The mammalian dive reflex triggers immediately. Your heart rate drops. Your nervous system shifts. If you're in full panic, this can break the cycle in 30 seconds. Keep that in your toolkit. It's simple, it's always available, and it works. The trusted person list is something you create now, before crisis. Write down 3 people you can call when you're spiraling. People who won't judge you. People who can listen without trying to fix. People who can help you regulate. Have their numbers immediately accessible. In crisis, you might not be able to think clearly enough to find a contact. But if it's right there, You can reach out. Social connection is one of the most powerful regulators of the nervous system. Don't try to handle everything alone. Medical versus psychological emergency is a distinction everyone needs to understand. If you're having a panic attack, it feels like you're dying. Your chest hurts. You can't breathe. You're dizzy. It's terrifying, but it's not medically dangerous. Your body is having a false alarm. However, heart attacks can feel similar. If you're unsure, seek medical attention. Better to be evaluated and told it's anxiety than to ignore a real medical crisis. Trust your body, but also trust medical professionals to assess what's happening. Post-crisis processing prevents trauma from crystallizing. After any acute stress event, you need to discharge the activation from your system. Move, shake, cry if tears come. Talk to someone about what happened. Write about it. Don't just push through and pretend you're fine. That trapped activation becomes stored trauma. Processing within 24 to 48 hours after an event can prevent long-term psychological impact. This isn't dwelling on what happened. This is completing the stress cycle so it doesn't stay stuck in your body. The Resilience Journal is where you document how you survived each storm. When you make it through something difficult, write about it. What happened? How did you feel? What did you do? What helped? What didn't? What did you learn? Over time, this journal becomes evidence of your capacity to handle hard things. When the next crisis comes, you can look back and remember that you've survived before. You'll survive again. This is building psychological resilience through documented proof. Let's practice with unannounced stress drills. I know you're listening to this audiobook, probably in a calm state. But I want you to set up surprise stress tests for yourself over the next month. Set random alarms on your phone with no context. When they go off, you have 60 seconds to implement your pocket protocol regardless of where you are or what you're doing. Breathe, ground, center. This trains your nervous system to access calm on demand. Even when you're surprised, ask a trusted friend to help. Have them unexpectedly bring up a sensitive topic and see if you can stay grounded. This isn't about being perfect. This is about discovering your current capacity and building from there. Now let's talk about the ripple effect of your personal calm on everything around you. This isn't self-help anymore. This is how your nervous system regulation changes your career trajectory, your relationships, your health, and your legacy. Calm isn't just a nice internal state. It's a competitive advantage in almost every domain of life. The leadership advantage is undeniable. When researchers study what makes great leaders, one quality appears consistently: the ability to stay calm under pressure. People follow those who don't panic. Teams perform better under leaders who maintain composure. Organizations thrive when leadership can think clearly during crisis. If you want to advance in any field, being the calm person in the room will take you further than almost any other single skill. Not because you're manipulating anyone, but because calm is contagious and valuable. People want to work with, for, and around people who don't add to the chaos. Parenting from center is perhaps the most important application. Your children's nervous systems are being shaped by yours. If you're constantly activated, anxious, reactive, you're teaching them that the world is dangerous and they should be on high alert. If you're regulated, present, and calm, you're teaching them that they can handle difficulty. You're giving them a regulated nervous system to mirror. The greatest gift you can give your children isn't things or opportunities. It's your own regulation. Kids don't need perfect parents. They need present parents who can stay calm when things get hard. The creativity connection is less obvious, but equally. Relationship magnetism is the phenomenon where calm people attract others naturally. Not because they're trying to, but because they create a sense of safety. People relax around them. Conversations deepen. Connection becomes possible. If you've ever been around someone who makes you feel immediately at ease, that's nervous system co-regulation. They're not anxious, so you stop being anxious. They're not judging, so you stop defending. They're present, so you can be present. Become that person. The quality of your relationships will transform. The longevity factor is backed by decades of research. Chronic stress is linked to virtually every major disease: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, dementia. Conversely, people who maintain equanimity in the face of life's challenges live longer, healthier lives. This isn't just correlation. The mechanisms are clear. Chronic stress creates chronic inflammation. It weakens your immune system. It disrupts your hormones. It accelerates aging at the cellular level. Learning to stay calm isn't just about quality of life, though that would be enough. It's also about quantity of life. The years you add by reducing chronic stress are substantial. Financial decision-making improves dramatically with emotional regulation. Think about the worst financial choices you've made. Chances are they happened when you were stressed, fearful, or excited. Emotional decisions around money tend to be bad decisions. Calm investors outperform emotional investors consistently. Not because they have better information, but because they don't panic sell in downturns and don't greedily chase bubbles in upswings. They stay rational when others aren't. This applies beyond investing. Salary negotiations, major purchases, business deals, all improve when you can think clearly, rather than react emotionally. Conflict resolution mastery comes naturally when you're the calm person. Most conflicts escalate because both parties are activated. Two nervous systems in fight or flight, triggering each other. But if one person stays calm, genuinely calm, not fake calm or passive-aggressive calm, the whole dynamic changes. You become the thermostat instead of the thermometer. The thermometer reflects the temperature around it. The thermostat sets the temperature. Be the thermostat. Your calm sets the tone that others can match. The legacy of stillness is what you model for everyone watching you. Your children, your colleagues, your friends, your community. They're seeing how you handle pressure. They're learning from your example whether they realize it or not. When you stay calm during difficulty, you give them permission to do the same. You show them it's possible. You become living proof that reactivity isn't inevitable. This is legacy work. Long after you're gone, the people whose lives you touched will remember how you made them feel, and they'll carry that forward. Your calm commitment requires an identity shift. You're not trying to be calm. You are becoming a calm person. There's a difference. Trying implies effort and strain. Becoming implies transformation and integration. You're not adding calm as a skill. You're integrating calm as part of who you are. This is fundamental change, not surface modification. And it happens through daily practice, consistent over time. Not perfect practice. Consistent practice. I want you to do one final exercise. Write a letter from your future self to your current self. 5 years from now, you've done the work. You've built unshakable calm capacity. You're the person who stays grounded when others spiral. You're the person people turn to in crisis. You're the person who makes good decisions under pressure. From that future place, write to yourself now. What do you want yourself to know? What encouragement do you want to offer? What's possible that you can't fully see yet? What did the journey require? What was worth it? Keep this letter somewhere you'll see it. Return to it when you doubt yourself. This is your North Star. Here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. The chaos isn't going away. Life will continue to bring pressure, problems, unexpected challenges. You will face loss and disappointment and difficulty. That's not pessimism. That's reality. The question has never been whether chaos will come. The question is whether you'll be ready. And now you will be. You began this audiobook reactive, overwhelmed, controlled by your stress response. You didn't have tools. You didn't have understanding. You were at the mercy of your nervous system's automatic patterns. But now you have 50 specific evidence-based protocols for creating calm on demand. You understand your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex. You know how to breathe strategically. You can reframe your thoughts. You can ride emotional waves. You can design your environment. You can stay grounded while others aren't. You can make good decisions under pressure. You can use your body to regulate your mind. Your nervous system is trainable. You've proven it through the practices embedded in this audiobook. Every time you chose response over reaction, you weakened the old pathway and strengthened the new one. Every time you practiced breathing or grounding or reframing, you built neurological infrastructure for calm. This isn't temporary. This is permanent change if you continue the practice. Stillness isn't passivity. This is critical to understand. Some people think calm means weak, passive, letting things happen to you. That's not calm. That's avoidance. Real stillness is strength. It's the power to feel everything without being controlled by anything. It's the capacity to face difficulty without adding unnecessary suffering. It's the wisdom to respond from your values rather than react from your wounds. This is the ultimate competitive advantage in any endeavor. Every relationship improves when you're the calm person. Think about the relationships that matter most to you. Partner, children, parents, close friends, colleagues. Now imagine showing up in those relationships regulated, present, non-reactive. How would those relationships transform? Less defensiveness, more listening, deeper connection, faster repair after conflict, more vulnerability, more trust. Your calm is a gift to everyone around you. Not because you're suppressing anything, but because you're processing everything skillfully. Every decision sharpens when you're not hijacked by panic. Career choices, financial choices, relational choices, all improve when your prefrontal cortex is online and your amygdala isn't running the show. You've made enough bad decisions from a place of fear or stress. Now you get to make decisions from clarity and wisdom. The outcomes will be measurably different. Your health, wealth, and happiness all multiply from this foundation. Calm isn't separate from success. It's the soil success grows in. You can't build anything sustainable on a foundation of chronic stress. But on a foundation of regulation, everything becomes possible. Better health because your immune system functions properly and inflammation decreases. Better wealth because your decisions are rational and your performance is consistent. Better happiness because you're not constantly in fight or flight, burning through your energy and joy. The chaos hasn't changed. Your job is still demanding. Your family still has needs. The world is still uncertain, but you have changed. You're not the person who started this audiobook. You have tools now. You have understanding. You have practice. You have proof that you can stay calm when it matters. This is the transformation. Not that life got easier, but that you got stronger. You're no longer asking, why is this happening to me? You're demonstrating I can handle whatever comes. That's the shift from victim to agent, from reactive to responsive, from chaos to calm. This is sovereignty. This is power. This is freedom. This is not the end of learning. It's the beginning of mastery. Mastery isn't perfection. It's never perfection. Mastery is the commitment to continue practicing even after the novelty wears off. Even when it's hard, even when you slip back into old patterns, because you will slip. Everyone does. Mastery is noticing the slip, forgiving yourself and returning to practice. Over and over, for the rest of your life. Return to this audiobook monthly as your capacity grows. You'll hear different things each time because you'll be different each time. Early on, you might focus on the breathing techniques. Later, you might focus on relational dynamics. Later still, on decision-making frameworks. The material is layered because calm capacity is layered. You build it over time, skill upon skill, practice upon practice. Stillness is strength. That's not a metaphor or a nice saying. It's a fact. The strongest people aren't those who never feel pressure. They're those who feel all the pressure and don't break. They bend like bamboo in the wind. They flow like water around obstacles. They stay rooted like ancient trees in storms. This is your strength now. Tested, trained, proven. Welcome to the rest of your calm, powerful, unshakable life. You have everything you need. The knowledge, the tools, the practices, the understanding. What you do with it from here is up to you. But you're not the same person anymore. You've crossed a threshold. You know what's possible. You've tasted calm under pressure. You can't unknow this. You can only choose whether to practice it. So practice every single day, when stakes are low and when stakes are high, when you feel good and when you feel terrible, when you remember and when you forget. Keep coming back. Keep breathing. Keep grounding. Keep choosing response over reaction. Keep being the calm person in the room. Keep building the life that becomes possible when you're no longer controlled by chaos. This is your path now. Walk it with commitment. Walk it with. The chaos will come. And when it does, you'll be ready. You'll breathe. You'll ground. You'll observe instead of absorb. You'll respond instead of react. You'll stay steady while others spiral. You'll be the person you needed when you started this audiobook. You'll be the proof that stillness is strength. Go now. Practice, build, become. The calm, powerful, unshakable version of yourself is waiting. Not in the future. Right now. In this breath. In this choice. In this moment. Stillness is strength, and that strength is yours.